We keep things rolling here on the Sports Cubicle. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. I am joined with Paul Chivari. This is going to be one of the interesting conversations that is going to really be a through line on a lot of episodes, a lot of segments of the Sports Cubicle, and that is TV deals. That is the thing that is happening right now. It is the golden goose for all these different pro organizations and heck, for all mediums. If you're a TV fan, if you're a movie fan, everything matters about where your stuff is being presented, who owns the rights to it. And one of the biggest things happening in sports is the NBA rights deal. And the Wall Street Journal has broken where these deals are landing and how much money exactly is going to be going where. So this comes to us from the Wall Street Journal. The National Basketball Association is closing in on a media rights deal with Comcast-owned NBC, Disney's ESPN, and Amazon that would generate about $76 billion in media revenue over 11 years, the Wall Street Journal reported on Wednesday. The Wall Street Journal also reported that NBC would pay an average of $2.5 billion a year to the NBA under the arrangement and show around 100 games per season, with about half airing exclusively on Comcast Peacock streaming service. Amazon's package would amount to $1.8 billion a year and will include regular season and playoff games and a share of the conference finals, which will be split in a rotation among the media partners, the report said. Finally, Disney payments will average about $2.6 billion annually, more than $1.5 billion it paid under the current deal, and will continue to air the NBA finals, though it will get fewer games under the new deal, the Wall Street Journal reported. The deal, as reported by the Wall Street Journal, would leave out Warner Brothers Discovery, whose Turner Sports Network has shown NBA games for about 4 decades. Analysts have said that Warner Brothers Discovery heavy debt load could hamper its ability to compete for NBA rights. The Journal reported said that Warner Brothers can still match a rival package, while the NBA can create a new package for the company in the final stretch, but the options for the media company are limited. That is from the Wall Street Journal, and a lot of this has really been in the minds of sports fans, not necessarily of the location of the NBA, because fans will find their way to find the games they want to watch. It's inside the NBA that everybody's worried about. So before we get to the nuance or the details of what this deal actually is and what we want from it, when you see this money amounts, when you see this article, when you hear about this, your initial reactions to kind of seeing what the final numbers and final landing spots are actually going to be.
We should also note, too, that Front Office Sports is reporting that TNT is trying to put together a last-minute package. So nothing's finalized yet. This is just what the Wall Street Journal knows. But adding to that is the possibility that TNT could try and get in on a smaller package with the NBA. So, I mean, we'll see what that ends up being. But TNT, Warner Brothers Discovery, $40 billion in debt as a company, can't really afford to take on what the highest marks of this potential deal could be. NBC trying to want it back ever since they lost it back in the 90s to ABC Disney. But at the same time, you still have, like you were saying, inside the TNT, one of the most popular shows, Charles Barkley going on and saying, he's been kind of going back and forth with people like, I don't know what's going on. We're either losing the show or we're keeping the show. And we'll see what happens. And then NBA TV is run by TNT, I guess, or Warner Brothers. So it's going to be messy if they pull out of it and TNT is no longer a part of it. It'll be a change in at least, even though NBC had this in years past and they're talking about bringing back John Tesh's Round Ball Rock as the theme song to all of it, it still is going to look entirely different. And then when you have the streaming stuff, having Amazon involved, and of course with Disney, could there be Disney Plus involved? And if you have TNT back and things, would that involve Max? So, and then Peacock, of course, with NBC. So it's exciting to see what sort of options are there, but at the same time, we don't know what that future is going to look like. And at the same time, when you talked about some of those numbers, how absurd that's going to be and what that's going to mean to, I think I saw Tatum has the largest contract, right, with the Boston Celtics or one of them. I don't remember if it's Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, but one of the two. But it's like basically their deal when they become a free agent again in a few years, if they signed to the same deal based on how the salary cap would be extended, you're looking at like a $400 million deal for that player. So, of course, with these big contracts, with outside of this, all of the inflation, outside of things and how, things only trend upwards in terms of value, just how absurd that's going to make the player contracts that come with this, because I think per the collective bargaining agreement, 50% of the media deal has to go back to the players. Don't quote me on that, but I think I remember reading it was that idea. So I mean, just think of like the absurdity of some of these numbers. So it's like, if I'm a media executive, it kind of seems like a bad idea to get involved with these sorts of things. But you and I both know that the NBA is incredibly popular. It only seems to be gaining in popularity. We've gone back and forth, the two of us, in terms of, well, what is the second most popular sport after the NFL? Is it MLB? Is it NBA? You can make an argument for one or the other. At some point, the NBA will be a firm number 2 in the world, and I think, or at least the United States. So, I mean, this is the time to get involved in one of those things. So I think this is an exciting thing to keep an eye on. But, of course, we don't know what the final package is going to look like yet.
Some of the things that we do know, though, right, is they're going to try to get as much money out of everything they can. We talked about it with the betting thing just earlier about having partnerships with the sports books and whatnot. So these TV deals, what I find interesting is we know that big-time corporations understand they're going to run in a negative to start whatever their investment is. And the idea is that eventually you're able to make money because of the investment you made after a couple years of it. Warner Brothers is in such debt they didn't have that option.
$40 billion.
It had nothing to do with David Zaslav not wanting the NBA. He did it back in the shareholders meeting. He said
I think that's a reflection off of the way everything's been deregulated, that they've soaked up so many properties.
So many properties it happens every day for people who are fans of the pop culture stuff. Studios are eating studios, airlines are eating airlines, manufacturers are eating manufacturers. It's happening in all industry. So I guess maybe we're getting a little sidetracked, because it's interesting that if you have these TV deals of people making so much money, eventually there is going to be a bubble burst. But the problem is it's the only live programming. Sports is the only live programming that is so valuable, because HBO, Warner Brothers is running in a negative, right? But the reason why Netflix is going for the NBA and the NFL and WWE, and you're seeing Amazon going after this, it's not because they love the sport. Some of them love it having the portfolio, but it's so that they get you on the app, so that they get your email, so that they get your credit card. This is all just programming. Sports fans look at it as this holier than thou. We put it on a pedestal, the Super Bowl, the NBA Finals, the World Series. But to these executives that are signing $4 billion deals, that's programming. That's a TV show. That needs to have a return of investment. And that's kind of been the theme of this episode. What is my return of investment? If you're a MLB player, is it worth gambling if you get caught and banned and you get to make no money at all? Is it worth Warner Brothers getting out of the sports game? Because guess who else is? NBC. NBC is getting out of the regional sports. And we're going to get into that, why that's so important in just a second. But this is stuff that we got to pay attention to. Like you just said, no regulations. Everybody's just eating up everybody. There's no money. And only an X amount of people have the access to these things. Now, speaking of that, we've been covering the regional sports network stuff that's been going on. And we've talked about Detroit Tigers, the Atlanta Braves, so many different teams. And you and I grew up in an era where teams would literally be blacked out. The Blackhawks weren't playing home games in Chicago on television. Well, now, speaking of the Blackhawks, there'll be a new home for Chicago sports. This comes to us from the Sports Business Journal. New Chicago Sports Network working through details ahead of launch. The newly announced Chicago Sports Network's ownership now faces a short runway to get a new media company off the ground in time for the Bulls and Blackhawks seasons in the fall, according to Julia Poe of the Chicago Tribune. Bulls broadcasters Adam Amin and Stacey King are, quote, expected to retain their roles for the 2024-25 season, but a source said that on-air talent for the Blackhawks is not yet confirmed, and that has been confirmed. There is a change in the Blackhawks booth. They do now have a new man in the booth.
But I'm wondering if that's because they already have a new man, after Pat Foley retired, if this is a chance for the new network to come up with their own guy. Or
2 years later, right?
Or
like
if just they just haven't ironed out the deal. It's like, I think Adam Amin to the Bulls is a little bit more of a closer tie than, I don't even know the young man's name that's with the Blackhawks.
Well, he's not there anymore. He's the guy that they hired 2 years ago has been fired, and now the Blackhawks have a brand new.
There you go.
So literally, it's just so there had been that whisper. So the minute they were able to make the change, the Blackhawks made the change.
I wouldn't be surprised if, based on the way things are going for John Schifrin and the White Sox, if there was a brand new play-by-play guy next season. But that's getting a little ahead of myself.
So just some details that we want to highlight that is from the Sports Business Journal article. CHSN said that it will announce distribution and media agreements as they are finalized throughout the summer. The network will be produced in partnership with Nashville, Tennessee-based Standard Media. Poe noted that Former president of Stadium Network Jason Coyle was named president of CHSN. Jeff Argus noted that Coyle has, quote, served in Chicago-based sports media leadership roles for more than 20 years. Chicago-based marketing agency M. Harris and Company consultant Beth Heller said that the network has a plan to differentiate itself from other RSNs despite its tumultuous time in the industry. CHSN said that it has, quote, begun building its staff and launched its website, chsn.com. Its first games will be the Bulls and Blackhawks preseason games. The White Sox will finish the season on NBC Sports Chicago before moving next season. Stadium will continue to operate its current form online through its app and distributors. So the most important thing for sports fans, for everybody, is distribution. This is no guarantee it's going to be on your Xfinity when you wake up. And just to add to that note, Marquee Network might not be on your Xfinity after this season. We saw Crane Kenny talk about it on 670 The Score, that they have to not worry about how they're going to distribute it. Comcast is getting out of regional sports networks. This is a brand new day. This is a brand new day for sports fans that is hitting Chicago finally.
But you were mentioning Marquee, though, and don't they have an app that you can get, even if, so someone like me that completely cut the cord, I don't want to get YouTube live in order to watch the White Sox, the Cubs. But I can get Marquee personally if I wanted to, and I would if I didn't already have the MLB TV thing. So it's like I just robbed myself of being able to watch it live, but I could go back and watch any game that I want to in the past. But with this, I'm wondering if there's going to be an app where you can watch all these things, because now you're blending not only the blackout rights of MLB, but NBA and NHL as well. And I don't know if you can have all three of those on a streaming platform.
It makes you wonder why they went RSN, though. Why they went RSN, why they didn't go digital right away. Why didn't they make their own platform? The idea that they're waiting, that they still need a distribution company, that they need to put themselves into packages.
But I think that's because of each respective league's relationship with television.
Which
I think you can't completely pull out of the television game, despite the fact that television is kind of a dying medium.
And that in itself is its own complication, because the negotiations that happen with these RSN have to coincide with the agreements that the leagues have made specifically. So there is so much more than just they're moving channels. Sports fans, don't worry about it. This is going to be a long process in 3 months. And the fact that they're going to try to get preseason games on in a few months is crazy. And they have the infrastructure. They're going to hire the same people.
They're technically already doing this with NBC Sports Chicago. It's just changing up some of the personnel.
It's distribution that matters.
Yeah.
That's the word the fan needs to learn. Distribution. Will it be on my Comcast? Will it be on my satellite? Can I get it on YouTube TV? Can I get it on Hulu? Where can I get this?
You know who in this day and age, which sport streaming service kind of figured it all out?
Soccer.
Soccer. MLS and Apple TV.
Yeah.
That's the most. I mean, soccer in general too. Premier League is on NBC or Peacock. Champions League is on Paramount Plus. CBS. So I think it's something along those lines. But I know that we're blending different leagues. These are American only leagues. They're not international leagues. They're trying to be. We're still in the midst of it. I love the ever-changing media landscape, but it feels like in 2024 we still haven't quite figured out how to do the digital era yet. And I think some of it is the stubbornness of some of these old TV blackout rules, and I think some of it too is the fact that no one wants to necessarily give up a piece of the pie. The local TV stations don't want to give up being able to show these games and having these. I think there's locally a demand for a regional sports network, but I think at the same time the powers that be, the businesses, don't see a need for it. So the sports fan needs to go somewhere in order to do it. Plus, in terms of, let's say, baseball, a lot of older heads, a lot of older fans, they're not going to want to get a smartphone just to watch their own teams or go to their computer. They want to sit down on the recliner. They want to turn on the TV. They want to watch games. The fact that in this day and age, you can't watch a Cubs game on WGN, you can't watch a Sox game on WGN or WCIU, that's absurd to me. But football, you can still watch it over the air.
And it goes to why there's 52 million people that watch the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
It is an accessibility thing. And you and I, we've talked about it before. One of the things I think baseball should have done, I think one Sunday every month, the Cubs should be on GN and the White Sox should be on WCIU. Baseball is a regional sport. It's a neighborhood sport. It should be on over-the-air television. And I think the Chicago Sky, who are on Marquee, should think about getting on the CW, getting on WCIU, something, and they get over the air. You become accessible to everybody. And you just said the problem is nobody's going to take a step back or take less of the big pot. Everybody's going to want to make sure their pockets are filled. So that's what the era we're in right now. So I thought it was just interesting to bring up all the media rights, both nationally where you're going to get your NBA and locally where you're going to get your NBA and MLB and NHL. For Cub fans, they've already been dipping their toes in the water. For sports fans, big picture, they've been dipping their toes in the water. There's been plenty of abs, but now it's coming full circle for everybody. So the dad and the south side and the uncle and the north side better get ready. If you want to watch Blackhawks or White Sox games, they're going to have a new home, and you got to be okay with finding where it's at because it may not be on your cable box. Something to think about, friends. But something else to think about is following us on Twitter. We're on Twitter at Sports Cubicle TV, and make sure you guys are subscribed to us on YouTube at The Sports Cubicle. Check us out at Heartland Signo WCPT 820. It is The Sports Cubicle. I'm Mike Mercado. He's Paul Chivari. We got a whole lot left here on The Sports Cubicle on WCPT 820 AM.
No problem finding us with our distribution channels.